This is the port of Savannah, which is in Savannah, Georgia. This is where the Southeast receives their imported goods from overseas. So China, Vietnam, all the manufacturing countries, along with the agricultural countries that produce some of the agricultural products that we consume here in the United States. This is one of the bigger ports that receive product into the United States, and tomorrow these guys are slated to go on strike.
I will cripple you.
There has been very little talked about in the mainstream media about this big strike that is coming. This could affect roughly 38,000 longshoremen who work the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports starting tomorrow. When they go on strike, what does that mean? Well, during the pandemic, these guys actually went to work. They went to work while everybody stayed at home and received mailbox checks, all right? So they went to work because they had to unload all the product that is shipped here. Now, what product are we talking about? Are we talking about cars? Are we talking about semiconductor chips by NVIDIA? Yeah, but we're also talking about fruit, food. We're talking about meats. We're talking about fresh products that we receive in our grocery stores every day. Well, they're pissed. They're really pissed because their 6-year contract ends today, September 30th, while the owners and the people who basically, the maritime management, I think is what it's called, have been making billions of dollars over the last 6 years. These guys, well, they ain't hurting in most cases. They're making upwards of 6-figure incomes, which, you know, okay, that's mostly overtime pay that they're getting those big bonuses, but they're now ticked because the big guys are making billions of dollars and they're getting these massive bonuses. So they're going on strike. At least that's what's on the surface. Underneath the surface, it's automation, it's artificial intelligence that they're really concerned about, threatening their overall jobs, as pretty much any industry should. Like, for instance, I wrote an article today about this. I collected a bunch of information using perplexity.ai. I took that, I massaged it a little, took some information, and then I dumped it into Claude AI and said, write me a blog post that goes up on Best of US Investors and summarize and write a detailed blog post about what's going on with the longshoremen strike. It did in less than 90 seconds, folks. If you're a journalist, you're in trouble. Or if you know AI, maybe you have an advantage here. I was going back and forth with a relative of mine who owns a manufacturing company who ships products throughout the world in the oil and gas industry. And I asked him, how does this strike affect you? And he said, well, one of our main products that we use to actually manufacture the products we have, we need to reorder in the next 30 days, and it's from overseas. We're gonna now have to, if these guys go on strike and they, you know, that strike goes on for many, many days, I'm gonna have to have the product shipped in, which means then the cost of shipping that product is gonna go through the roof. He says that I will then have to raise my prices for any future orders on this product. Think about that. You get your vegetables and meats and that kind of thing from out of this country, and it's imported here into the United States. And yes, most of the stuff in your grocery store is not manufactured here in the United States. Well, if it's delayed and they have to change their shipping routes, which means they ship it not into the East Coast, but into the West Coast, that cost goes up. And that cost then is passed down to you. So my relative's issue with having to put it on a plane versus on a ship, and if the price of shipping that product, say, goes up 2 times or 4 times, the end consumer is going to then have to absorb that cost. Then they're going to take that cost that they had to pay an additional from my relative, and they're going to pass it on to the next person, the consumer. And so inflation now starts to accelerate the longer this strike goes on. So as I'm walking down here, I pass by 3 banks, which then gets me to thinking about, well, if I'm a business and I'm a second tier from these guys who are offloading the products from these ships, and I get into a point where I don't have inventory, I don't have product to sell, and the cost of my product starts to go up and my sales start to go down, and the loans I have out for my business start to get behind 30, 60, 90 days, what happens to the banks? How do they start feeling pressure from all of this? Now, that can be a pretty drawn out time frame. So let's think of it from the standpoint of maybe it's not 30 days from now, but 120 days from now, or 6 months from now. How does this affect the banking system? Well, in my opinion, as long as these guys stay on strike, which for every day they're on strike, it takes 6 days to get back up to capacity or back to even capacity from before they went on strike, then you've got a major issue. So if they go on strike for, say, 30 days times 6, what is that, 180 days out before they're actually even? Well, that puts us in past Christmas, which means the products that we buy for Christmas are more expensive, and so on and so on and so on. So as an investor, how do you play this? Well, number one, according to the head of the Longshoremen's union, this is gonna happen, and they ain't backing off. Now, if Biden signs in, I think it's called the TAF 90-day cooling period, I think that's the name of it. Well, okay, there's 90 days, but he has blatantly said, sure, we'll go back to work for 90 days, but instead of offloading 25 ships, we'll offload 2. Same effect, same issues we're gonna run into, same problems. So as an investor, how do you play this? How do you protect your portfolio as this starts to unravel? Well, here are my ideas. Going back in time and looking at past financial crises, where does money flow? Number one, gold is at an all-time high. Why is gold an all-time high? I mean, it's not something you can just stick in your pocket or transact business with here at one of the local shops on the boardwalk here. Why do people go to gold? It's safety. It is seen as a universal safety measure. So gold is where money has been flowing probably for the last 9 months or so. So we're seeing all-time highs there. So gold is a safety trade. Number two, we have seen treasury yields come down, which means bond prices have gone up in value. So the 10-year, the 30-year treasury is now going lower versus the 2-year treasury, which is typically more of where you see money flowing in a inverted yield curve, which means 2 years are lower than 10. Now we're seeing the reversal of a inverted yield curve to where now 10 years and 30-year treasuries are going lower in yield, values are going up, and 2-year yields are going up, which means 2-year yield prices are going down. I know that's confusing, but you should come join Best of US Investors and join one of our calls where we get really into the nitty-gritty of all of this. So treasury yields, probably 5 out to 30-year maturities, could be a safe place to go. And historically, during the great financial crisis, that was one place where people went to protect themselves. So you got gold, you got treasuries. Anything that doesn't fluctuate in value is an opportunity. Consumer staples have been on the rise. In a stagflation environment, you start to see consumer staples, utilities start to perform. In a recessionary environment, you see this category of companies or sectors doing well as well. So how do you protect yourself as these guys go on strike and the strike goes out in length and starts to affect our US economy, which every day they're on strike, we could see an effect of $641 billion affecting the US economy, which they're not talking about at the Federal Reserve. They're not putting information out about the effects of that. And I suspect from my sources and from the research I've done, this strike is going to happen. Couple this with the Boeing strike of mechanics at Boeing have been on strike for quite a while. Think of all the little businesses that are affected by that. The local eateries, the local mechanic shops, the local grocery stores, where these people don't have money to come in and spend money. These stores, these services also are affected. This one could have a big effect here in Savannah, but more likely on the outskirts of Savannah and other port cities that aren't really tourist based like Savannah is. So where do you protect yourself? You can use gold as an example. You can use US Treasuries, more intermediate to long-term Treasuries as an example. And you could use more of the consumer staples, utilities element as we go from a sector 3 economic environment to a sector 4 economic environment as this continues to progress, this strike initiative that Longshore Union is on. So at the end of the day, you have to protect yourself. More importantly, you have to get well informed. And that's what we do here at the bestofusinvestors.com. That's bus13.ai. That's the simple URL version, or you can go bestofusinvestors.com. We talk about this. We have 2 levels. We're about to introduce a 3rd level. We have silver, which is in the works and will be coming out at a price tag of $9.95 a month. We have the gold level, which is $19.95 a month. That includes all these different services. Check out our website. And then we have the platinum level, where we get in the nitty-gritty action steps, proactive swing trading program, all of the big education. Everything sort of drifts up to platinum, and that is $60 a month. Our subscribers on average make back that $60 a month every month, along with getting well informed, positioning better for economic environments. And as we have been talking about for 2 weeks about this strike, we've been talking about the economic meltdown that we are seeing economically in the data, not in the news, not on what CNBC wants to blow air up your ass. No, we're talking about real data, real numbers. This strike could accelerate that. Not to scare you into checking us out, more enabling you to become better investor and wealth creation and protect your family's wealth. Check us out, www.bus13.ai. I look forward to talking to you and seeing you. Hit the like button, the comments, please put them in the description below. Check us out, bestofusinvestors.com. See ya. Peace. Live loud.